Hello, I'm Alison Lester and I'm going to talk a little bit about drawing. I'm going to try and do a post every week during this 6 weeks lockdown that we're going through. I missed last week, I'm sorry, but we'll get going again. So here's the sort of drawing I love drawing, and this is when I don't actually have to particularly draw something and I'm just sitting down, often on the phone or talking to someone, and I'm scribbling, and I seem to be able to draw very energetic, confident drawings this way that I really like. Unfortunately for books, I often have to tidy these drawings up too much, and I never like the finished product as much as these first rough drawings. I wasn't always a good drawer. This is a book that my mum put aside for me and kept. I did it when I was in grade 4, The Secret of St. Clair's. And even though I love drawing, I wasn't a particularly good drawer. And you can see there I've done an awful job ruling up all the bricks. And really, a ruler is something you should chuck away the minute that you decide you want to do some drawing. Drawing is a very hard thing to do because it's so personal, and a lot of people don't draw because they really are quite afraid of it. So it's good to do some little exercises like starting off drawing continuous line drawings where you can't take the pencil off the paper, or drawing something without looking at your paper. Drawing something upside down, like maybe getting a bicycle, and we all think we know what a bike looks like, and turning it upside down and drawing it that way, so you really have to think about how it all fits together. There's a little sketch here of two kids sitting on a chair, and the one on the right, you can see I've drawn it as though I can see all the legs, and it's something we all want to do when we draw. We know we've got two legs on the body and that there is a piece of leg between the knee and the hip. But if you look at the left-hand picture, you can see that often if you're looking straight at someone sitting in a chair, you actually can't see that bit of leg. So it's good to try and do some exercises where you really look at what you're drawing instead of drawing what you think you can see. Another thing to think about when you're drawing is stereotypes, and I still do this. I still draw houses with little pointy red roofs and a chimney with smoke coming out the corner and a window and a door. I'd go to draw trees that are just a green circle with a brown trunk, and I draw green grass and blue skies. But often the world isn't like that. Often the colours are much more different. The trees are orange and the sky is purple and the grass is yellow. So never be afraid to experiment with your colours and break away from those stereotypes, including this one that always gets me, which is a little sun up in the right-hand corner of a drawing. And instead of those pointy houses, think about what your house looks like. Has it got a flat roof? Has it got a TV antenna on the roof or a satellite dish? Does it hang out over a hill, or is it, whatever. It might have a round roof. So there's lots and lots of different things to think about when you're drawing. And there's lots of things to draw with too. You can draw with a texter, or you can draw with a pen, or you can draw with a paintbrush. I think over here I might have some I did with texters and paintbrushes where you can just see the different techniques that I've used. Here's quite a sweet one of a charcoal pencil where you can smudge that with your finger a little bit too, just to make it look a bit more interesting. So with drawing, it's really important to experiment, and also to keep your drawings. Don't throw things away, because it's good to look back and see how your drawing's been going. I've got a nice picture here that I did once at a school I visited, and that we were making a book, and the kids hadn't had an art teacher for a long time, so no one was a very confident drawer, and we ended up making the people out of little torn pieces of paper, and then just making eyes by punching them out with a hole puncher and drawing with fine liners. And that simple technique gave everyone a bit more confidence to keep going. Here's another lovely technique, which is drawing with wax crayons. This is particularly good for drawing nighttime scenes. If you draw with yellow, it's great for stars and moon and torchlight and all that sort of stuff. And then when you've got all your crayon on, you have to press quite hard with either a wax or an oil crayon. And then if you put watercolour or food dye over the top, you get that lovely contrast. Here's a technique that I've used a lot, and I love this. For people who aren't confident drawers, stenciling is a really great way to go. And this is when you draw a shape and cut it out, and then paint through it, and then that lovely crisp image appears. And quite often we draw over them in white. I think the white drawing over the top looks so good because there's no outline that the colour just stops on the white page. So it gives it a very dramatic look. I'll just try and lie that one down without it getting all smashed. Here's a sweet one of an echidna that's been done in that same way. These are very simple to do, and it's impossible to do a bad stencil. Even if you don't think you're a good drawer at all, your stencil will always look good. Here's a tricky little thing to do, and that is if you draw on butcher's paper with a fine liner, the fine liner will bleed into the very absorbent paper, and then if you blow it up in your computer or your photocopier, you'll end up with that lovely jaggedy line. Here's one here that I've blown up heaps, and you can see how that line, which just looks like quite a firm line from a distance, when it's blown up a lot, has all those beautiful little bleeds coming out of it. Here's another illustration where I've used a white crayon and then put watercolour over it. White is so good for doing things like the sea or icebergs. It's quite hard to see where you're going, so often if I'm using a white crayon like this, I might draw very gently and lightly with a pale pink or a pale blue one, just so I can see where I'm going, and then I'll put the white over the top. And then when you put the watercolour over the top, it's like a magic code being unlocked, that you can see this beautiful picture emerging. One thing to think about when you're drawing is to not always draw on that shaped paper. Like, it's a bit tempting to do that, but that's what we always do. But I don't know if I've got one here, or even a piece like that is different, where it's a slightly different shape. But you'll find if you work on a long skinny bit of paper, your drawing will actually be a little bit different. Here you can see how often I have to draw things. I'm trying to do some stencils of the marine creatures that live in the Great Australian Bight. So I've been drawing them. I've had to look up things on my iPad or just to see what a sea lion looks like to make sure I can get them correct. But I try not to copy them exactly. I try just to work in quite a loose, rough way and see what I come up with. Here's some big blue whales that I'm working on as well. So it's very unlikely that I ever get a drawing right the first time. I often have to have lots and lots of goes at it. So you can't be stingy with your drawing. You have to be prepared to do lots and lots of drawings and just see how they unfold. And let them be really messy like this. And experiment with all those different things. Here you can see a little boy holding a dog, and I think I spoke a little bit about this in the last one, where I've gone over my lines on the left-hand side of the figure and made those lines heavier, so you can imagine that the sun is coming from the kind of the top right-hand corner of the page, and it just gives that figure a lot more weight than if it had just been a single line. There's some more scribbles up there. Email Barbara. I don't know if I've got around to doing that yet. Okay, well, thank you very much. Next week, someone asked if I would explain about photocopying onto watercolour paper, printing onto watercolour paper, so I'll do that next. So thanks very much for listening. I hope this has been helpful and is helping you get through lockdown. Okay, bye-bye.